The villa's heavy oak door slammed shut behind me like a judge's gavel, sealing me into a world of terracotta tiles and shadowed archways that smelled of olive oil and unspoken regrets. "Welcome to paradise, Riley," Rose's voice echoed from the courtyard, laced with that familiar sarcasm that always made my stomach flip, but today it carried an edge, sharp as the Alhambra's hidden daggers. And then her uncle stepped from the gloom, his smile too wide, eyes too hungry, murmuring in broken English, "Ah, the American girl. We've been waiting for you. Longer than you know." I never thought a summer escape to Spain would unravel like this. Me, Riley Hayes, 25 and freshly divorced from a life I didn't choose, chasing sunsets in Andalusia to forget the wreckage back in Seattle. Rose Whittaker had been my anchor since our study abroad days in Madrid 5 years ago, the kind of friend who could read my silences like Braille. She was the one who texted me last winter, "Get your ass over here. Uncle Esteban's villa has a guest room with a view of the Strait of Gibraltar. You need this." I'd booked the flight on impulse, packing nothing but jeans, a sketchbook, and the ghosts of a marriage that ended because loving men felt like wearing someone else's skin. The drive from Malaga Airport had been a blur of winding coastal roads, eucalyptus trees whipping past like green flames. Rose picked me up in her beat-up Fiat, her dark hair tied back in a messy ponytail, aviators hiding eyes that sparkled with mischief. "God, you look like shit," she teased, pulling me into a hug that lingered just a beat too long, her scent of salt and jasmine wrapping around me like a secret. At 26, Rose hadn't changed much, still that lithe, sun-kissed frame from years of surfing the Costa del Sol, olive skin glowing against her white tank top, a tattoo of a compass rose peeking from her shoulder, inked during a rebellious phase we'd shared over cheap sangria. But the villa. That was where the fairy tale cracked. Perched on a hillside outside Tarifa, it was a sprawling Moorish relic, whitewashed walls, iron-grated windows overlooking vineyards that dipped toward the sea. Esteban, Rose's uncle on her mother's side, inherited it after her parents' car accident a decade back. He'd raised her here, turning the place into a boutique olive oil empire, all charm and export deals to the States. On the surface, he was the doting guardian, silver hair slicked back, linen suits tailored just so, a laugh that boomed like cannon fire. But as we pulled up the gravel drive, I caught the way his gaze lingered on Rose from the balcony, possessive, like she was the prize vintage in his cellar. Dinner that first night was a feast of gazpacho and jamon, served under a canopy of stars. Esteban poured Rioja like it was holy water, toasting to "new beginnings" with a wink that made my skin crawl. Rose rolled her eyes behind his back, mouthing "ignore him" as she passed me the bread. We fell into easy rhythm, reminiscing about that wild semester in Madrid, the flamenco bars where we danced until dawn, the all-nighters cramming for lit exams on Lorca's gypsy ballads. "Remember the time we kissed those Catalan boys on the Ramblas?" she whispered later, as Esteban droned on about his latest shipment to New York. Her foot brushed mine under the table, accidental on purpose, and I felt that old spark ignite, the one we'd always chalked up to youth and wine. But sleep evaded me that night. The guest room was a cocoon of silk sheets and fretwork screens, moonlight slicing through like accusations. I tossed, replaying the divorce papers I'd signed 6 months ago, Evan's face crumpling as I admitted I couldn't fake it anymore. "It's not you, it's me," I'd said, the cliché tasting like ash. Truth was, I'd spent years burying the part of me that lit up around women like Rose, the quiet ache that bloomed in stolen glances. Here, in this foreign heat, it clawed its way free. Morning brought clarity, or so I thought. Rose knocked softly, slipping in with 2 cortados and a grin. "Uncle's off to Seville for the day, trade show bullshit. We've got the run of the place." We hiked down to the beach, the sand scorching underfoot, waves from Africa crashing in like distant thunder. She stripped to her bikini without shame, all lean muscle and faded scars from childhood scrapes, while I hesitated, self-conscious in my one-piece, freckles blooming like constellations across my chest. We swam until our fingers pruned, then sprawled on towels, sharing a thermos of iced horchata. That's when it started, really started. Lying there, salt drying on our skin, Rose turned to me, propping on an elbow. Her eyes, hazel flecked with gold, searched mine. "Why'd you really come, Ree? Not just the divorce?" Her voice was soft, stripped bare by the sea's roar. I swallowed, heart hammering. "Because being around you feels like home. The only kind I've ever wanted." The words hung, electric. She reached out, tracing a finger along my jaw, and time folded. Our lips met, tentative, then fierce, tasting of salt and unspoken years. It wasn't fireworks, it was a dam breaking, slow and inevitable, her hand in my hair pulling me closer as the world narrowed to the heat between us. We didn't talk about it after, not right away. Instead, we chased the high, lazy afternoons sketching the windmills at Consuegra, evenings cooking paella on the villa's rooftop, Esteban's absence a gift. But he returned 2 days later, tanned and triumphant, with news that soured the air. Over lunch, he announced it casually, fork spearing an olive. "Rose, me Sabrina, I've arranged a meeting. Carlos Ruiz, his family's vineyards border ours. A merger, you see. And perhaps more." Rose froze, her fork clattering. "Uncle, no. I'm not some dowry." He chuckled, waving it off. "Nonsense. Tradition. You need stability, not these flights of fancy." I watched from across the table, nausea rising. Carlos Ruiz, some 40-something widower with a mustache like a broom and eyes on Esteban's empire. It wasn't just marriage, it was possession, Esteban's way of chaining Rose to the land, to him. That night, as thunder rumbled over the strait, she came to my room. We didn't sleep. Curled under the covers, her head on my chest, she whispered the truth. Esteban had been like this since her parents died, controlling the money, the business, her life. He says it's for my own good. But it's his good. Always has been. Our stolen moments deepened, a rebellion in whispers and touches. We'd drive to hidden coves, where she'd teach me to body surf, her laughter echoing as waves tossed us like driftwood. One evening, atop the ruins of a Roman watchtower, she pulled a small box from her pocket, a silver necklace with a tiny anchor pendant. "For you," she said, fastening it around my neck, her fingers lingering at my collarbone. "So you carry a piece of here. Of us." I kissed her then, slow and deep, the sun dipping into the sea like a promise. For the first time, I let myself dream, us, back in the States, building something real. A bookstore in Portland, maybe, shelves groaning with queer poets and Spanish imports. But dreams fracture easy in the heat. Esteban's plans accelerated. Invitations arrived, dinners with the Ruiz family, a fiesta at the vineyard. Rose resisted, but he wielded guilt like a blade. "Your parents would want this. Security. Not running off with ghosts." He meant me, the American interloper, though he never said it outright. Tension coiled in the villa's halls, his eyes followed us, sharp as a hawk's. One afternoon, I found him in the study, rifling through Rose's sketchbooks, pages filled with my face, abstracted in charcoal, tender and raw. He looked up, smile brittle. "She has talent, no. But talent needs roots. You understand, Riley." I didn't. Or I did, and it terrified me. That night, betrayal slithered in. Rose had promised we'd slip away to Cadiz for the weekend, a last gasp before confronting Esteban. But when I went to her room at dawn, she was gone, bed empty, a note on the pillow, "Forgive me. He knows. Stay safe." Or. My chest caved. Knows what? About us. The kiss. Panic surged. I tore through the villa, finding only Esteban in the kitchen, sipping coffee with that infernal calm. "Rose?" "She left early. Family obligations." His tone dripped false concern. "Lies." I grabbed my phone, texts bouncing unread. Hours blurred, driving the coastal roads alone, heart in my throat, the anchor necklace burning against my skin. By dusk, I tracked her to the Ruiz estate, a sprawling finca amid cork oaks, lanterns strung like fireflies for the engagement dinner. She stood on the terrace in a crimson dress that hugged her like regret, Carlos's hand on her elbow, Esteban beaming nearby. Our eyes met across the crowd, hers wide, pleading. Mine shattered. I stormed through, voices hushing like waves receding. Rose, what the hell? The words tore free, raw. She pulled away from Carlos, face ashen. Riley, please. It's not, Esteban intercepted, grip iron on my arm. Señorita Hayes, this is private. But Rose exploded then, voice cracking the night. No. It's all a lie, uncle. The merger, the marriage, it's your cage, not mine. Guests murmured, Carlos sputtered. She grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the shadows, but Esteban blocked us, face twisting. You think you can steal her? Take her from her blood. It wasn't rage, it was fear, naked and ugly, the fear of losing control, of the empire crumbling without her tethered. Rose whirled on him. Blood. You're not my father. You never were. You raised me to be your puppet. The argument spilled into the garden, thorns snagging our clothes like accusations. Revelations poured, Esteban's debts, the business teetering, Carlos the lifeline. But worse, his manipulation, years of isolating Rose, whispering that no one else would want a girl damaged by grief. And now this American, he sneered at me, whispering freedoms you can't have. I stepped forward, voice steady despite the quake. She can have whatever she fights for. Including me. Rose chose then, in the floodlit chaos, her hand slipping into mine, firm. I'm done, uncle. The villa, the oil, sell it if you must. But I'm leaving. He staggered, the patriarch unmasked, a man who'd built walls from love's ruins. No blows, no screams, just silence, heavy as the sea. We walked out, her dress torn at the hem, my jacket over her shoulders, the party dissolving behind us like smoke. The drive back was quiet, rain sheeting the windshield, wipers slashing secrets. At the villa, we packed by flashlight, her books, my sketches, dreams bundled into duffels. Dawn broke as we fled east, toward Barcelona's sprawl, Esteban's silhouette fading in the rearview. Betrayal lingered, a bruise, her note, born of terror, not doubt. I thought if I went through with it, he'd let you go unscathed, she confessed later, curled against me in a roadside posada. He threatened your visa, your safety. God, I couldn't lose you. Forgiveness came slow, in fragments, nights in cheap hostels, her head on my lap as we planned, mornings waking to her coffee breath, anchor necklace glinting on the nightstand. Spain shrank behind us, but its scars shaped us, Esteban's call a week later, voice broken, offering shares in the business if she'd return. She declined, mailing the papers from a cyber cafe. Not chains, she said. Wings. We landed in Seattle under gray skies, the Space Needle a beacon through jet-lag fog. My apartment felt small, but hers, well, we made it ours. Rose found work at an import shop, hawking Andalusian ceramics. I picked up freelance graphic design, our evenings filled with paella experiments and Lorca readings. The romance bloomed quiet, walks in Discovery Park, her hand in mine unhidden, the world softer for it. But drama's echo remained, letters from Esteban, first furious, then pleading, finally a single photo, the villa at sunset, empty terrace, caption, roots wait, but they don't pull. One spring evening, as cherry blossoms dusted the paths, we sat on my fire escape, city hum below. Do you regret it? I asked, tracing her tattoo. She smiled, that wicked curve. Regret choosing us? Never. But I miss the sea sometimes. We flew back that summer, not to the villa, but to Tarifa's beaches, anonymous, free. Esteban had sold the place, vanished to Valencia, whispers of a quiet life. We surfed at dawn, her teaching me to carve waves, laughter salting the spray. In the end, it wasn't triumph or tragedy, just human, messy grace. Love isn't a straight coastal road, it's the cliffs, the storms, the choice to hold on. Rose and I, anchors to each other, built our horizon. And in the quiet, when doubt whispers, I touch the necklace and remember, sideways was the only way forward. Months blurred into the rhythm of reinvention, but Spain's shadow stretched long, even across the Pacific. Back in Seattle, the rain-slick streets mirrored the ache we'd carried home, like we'd smuggled a piece of the strait's wildness in our veins. Rose adapted with her trademark fire, charming the owner of that import shop into letting her curate a Andalusian dreams of corner, hand-painted tiles, olive wood carvings, jars of saffron that perfumed the air like nostalgia. She'd come home dusted in spice, kissing me with flavors of cumin and clove, her laugh chasing away the day's grind. Me. I threw myself into designs, logos for queer-owned cafes, posters for pride marches that screamed color against the city's perpetual gray. But nights were when the drama resurfaced, uninvited. Rose would wake gasping from dreams of Esteban's face, twisted in that final garden plea, or the villa's doors slamming like judgments. I'd hold her, murmuring nonsense about cherry pie and ferry rides, but the betrayal festered subtle. Not hers, mine, in a way. I'd trusted too easily, flown across oceans on a whim, only to watch her world crack open. What if I'd pushed harder sooner? The what-ifs were weeds, choking the romance we'd fought for. Our first real test came in November, when a letter arrived, thick vellum, postmarked Valencia. Esteban. Rose slid it open at the kitchen table, her knife steady but knuckles white. Inside, a check, fat with euros converted to dollars, and a note in his elegant script, for your new life. No strings. But remember, family is the soil we can't outrun. She stared at it, then tore the check in half, quarters fluttering like confetti. He thinks money fixes cages. Her voice broke, and I pulled her close, feeling the tremor in her ribs. That night, we burned the pieces in a coffee can on the balcony, flames dancing like tiny flamenco skirts, toasting with cheap Merlot. To roots we choose, I said. She clinked her mug, eyes fierce. To wings we earn. Winter deepened the intimacy, turning our apartment into a sanctuary of strung lights and shared scarves. We'd host game nights with my old college crew, queer folks mostly, a tapestry of tattoos and therapy stories, Rose holding court with tales of bull runs and gypsy markets, her accent slipping into a hybrid lilt that made everyone lean in. One such night, as snow flurried outside, our friend Mia, a non-binary artist with a buzz cut and wicked wit, cornered me in the kitchen. You too glow, Ree. Like you've seen hell and come back tanned. I laughed, but it stuck. We'd survived an inferno, Esteban's machinations the devil at the door. Yet conflict simmered, inevitable as tide pools. Rose's visa loomed, her student days long expired, the import gig not sponsoring. Immigration bureaucracy loomed like Gibraltar's rock, forms demanding proof of ties, interviews probing for fraud. Marry me, I blurted one February evening, snow globes whirling past the window. She paused mid-stir of her tortilla española, spatula hovering. What? Her eyes searched mine, a mix of hope and haunt. Not for papers. For us. Because I want the world to know you're my horizon. Tears welled, but she grinned, that sunburst smile. Only if we do it on a beach. No suits, just sand in our toes. Planning became our rebellion, eloping to Cannon Beach, Oregon, where Haystack Rock loomed like a sentinel. We invited a handful, Mia as officiant, my sister Ellie, finally thawed on the queer thing, Rose's distant cousin from Barcelona who'd defected to Portland's food scene. The ceremony was us, barefoot on driftwood, vows exchanged under a salt-stung sky. Riley, Rose said, ring slipping cool on my finger, you crashed into my villa like a rogue wave, pulling me under. I choose the current, every time. Mine trembled, Rose, you were the map I didn't know I needed. I'll navigate your storms, always. We kissed to cheers and crashing surf, sealing it with a bottle of Rioja smashed against the waves, Spanish tradition, American twist. Honeymoon was a road trip south, tracing the coast to Big Sur, where cliffs mirrored Andalusia's drama. We hiked trails scented with pine and eucalyptus, her hand in mine a talisman against vertigo. One afternoon, atop a bluff, wind whipping her hair like Medusa's coils, she turned serious. I need to go back. Just once. To face him. My gut twisted, Esteban, the ghost who'd nearly stolen her. Alone? She shook her head. With you. Closure, for both of us. Spring bloomed treacherous. We flew into Malaga again, the air thick with jasmine betrayal. The villa was sold, gutted into a trendy agroturismo, new owners oblivious, leasing rooms to influencers snapping rose selfies. But Esteban. We traced him to a modest flat in Valencia, overlooking the Turia Gardens, once a riverbed, now a green ribbon through the city. He answered the door gaunt, silver hair unkempt, eyes hollowed by what looked like months of solitude. Rose, he breathed, then nodded at me, civil frost. And Riley. The thief of hearts. We sat in a sun-dappled parlor, tea steaming untouched. No accusations flew, exhaustion had sanded the edges. Esteban spoke first, voice a gravel whisper, I was wrong. After you left, the Ruiz deal soured, Carlos fled when I admitted the debts. The villa. It was never about legacy. It was fear. Losing your parents broke me, I thought chaining you would mend it. Rose's jaw tightened, but tears glinted. You didn't chain me, uncle. You dimmed me. For years. He nodded, deflated. I see that now. Therapy, they call it here, some American import. It peels you raw. I stayed silent mostly, hand under the table on her knee, anchor to the storm. But when he turned to me, gaze appraising, I met it. You love her fiercely. That's more than I gave. No apology to me, didn't need it. This was Rose's reckoning. She forgave him, tentative, a hug stiff as starched linen, promises of emails, not visits. Heal yourself first, she said. As we left, he pressed a small vial into her palm, pure Andalusian olive oil, from the last pressing. Roots, not ropes. The flight home was lighter, Valencia's lights receding like shed skin. But climax brewed back stateside, in the form of a ghost reborn. Ellie's wedding, my straight-laced sister tying the knot to her finance bro in a Bellevue country club, all crystal chandeliers and champagne flutes. We'd RSVP'd as a couple, bold post-elopement, but tension crackled in the prep calls, mom's passive sighs, dad's gruff silences. At the rehearsal dinner, it erupted, Mia, ever the spark, toasting to loves that defy maps, and mom hissing under her breath, Riley, must you parade it? Rose, wineglass paused, fired back cool, parade. We're married, Mrs. Hayes. Same as Ellie. The table froze, forks tinkled like warnings. Ellie flushed, caught between loyalties, and Dad cleared his throat. Family sticks, but this. It's a phase, right? My blood roared. I stood, chair scraping. A phase? Like my divorce was. Or Rose's tradition to back home. The dam broke, words tumbling, Esteban's control mirroring their disapproval, the betrayal of blood over heart. Rose gripped my hand, her calm a lifeline. We're not asking permission. Just presence. Mom teared up, Dad mumbled retreat. Ellie pulled us aside later, whispering, they're dinosaurs, give them time. The wedding day dawned crisp, peonies bursting like apologies. We sat front row, Rose's arm looped mine, a united front. Vows echoed, Ellie's promise of forever homes, and I squeezed Rose's fingers, our own echoes. Reception brought olive branches, Mom's stiff dance invite, Dad's gruff, nice ring. Not perfection, but progress, human, halting. Summer cycled us forward. Rose's shop expanded, a pop-up at Pike Place drawing crowds for her storytelling sessions. I landed a gig illustrating a graphic novel on Lorca, Gypsies and Forbidden Loves, ink born of our saga. Evenings, we biked to Alki Beach, sunset gilding the Olympics, her head on my shoulder as fairies cut wakes like silver scars. But betrayal's final twist came gentle, in autumn leaves. A package from Valencia, Esteban's will, premature, leaving Rose a vineyard share, not controlling, but honoring. With it, a letter, plant what grows. Love, T.O. She cried then, not from pain, but release, the man who'd caged her now setting seeds free. As leaves turned fire orange, our life settled into a cadence that felt earned, like a song finally finding its key. The vineyard stake. Rose invested it wisely, not in Spain, but a small plot outside Seattle, organic grapes for a queer winery co-op, roots here, she declared, planting the first vine with soil-caked hands, me snapping photos, her kneeling in overalls, dark hair braided, sun haloing her like a saint of second chances. It became our ritual, weekends tilling earth, neighbors joining with pitchforks and potlucks, turning dirt into community. Drama faded to backstory, the kind you tell over bonfires to scare the newbies. Yet romance thrived in the quiet interstices. One crisp October morning, she woke me with breakfast in bed, churros dusted with cinnamon, coffee black as midnight. Anniversary, she murmured, sliding under the covers, her body warm curve against mine. Not passion's blaze, but embers, lazy kisses tracing collarbones, laughter bubbling as syrup stuck our fingers. We spent the day wandering Capitol Hill, hand in hand through murals of fists raised and hearts intertwined, stopping at a cafe for horchata lattes. Remember the Cove? I asked, stirring foam. She grinned. How could I forget? You look like a drowned poet, sputtering salt. Her foot hooked mine under the table, that old spark flickering eternal. Conflict, when it resurfaced, was internal, a slow burn. Rose's dreams shifted, not nightmares now, but ambitions. The co-op bloomed, but so did offers, consulting for Spanish exporters, trips to trade fairs in Bilbao. Just a week, she'd say, packing her duffel. I'd nod, but jealousy gnawed, irrational as fog. What if Spain pulled her back? Esteban's shadow, or the sea's siren call. One night, after her return from a Madrid jaunt, flushed with jet lag, stories of tapas bars and old haunts, she found me sketching furiously, our bed unmade. Talk. I set the charcoal down, admitting the fear, you're whole there. What if I'm just the American detour? She crossed the room in 3 strides, cupping my face, thumbs brushing tears I hadn't noticed. Detour. You're the damn road, Riley. Spain's my past, beautiful, broken. You're my now, my always. We talked till dawn, unraveling threads, my divorce scars, her orphan's loneliness, how love isn't possession but parallel paths. Betrayal. It was mine, to doubt us. She forgave with a map, literal, drawn in her looping script, our routes, intertwined. Winter brought whimsy, a balm. We hosted solstice, friends crammed into our living room, fairy lights twinkling, Rose leading a circle of gratitudes. Mia shared art grants, Ellie, beaming, announced her pregnancy, pulling Rose aside for anti-tips. Even Mom called, voice tentative, heard about the vines. Proud, kiddo. Progress, pixel by pixel. Climax crested unexpectedly, in the co-op's first harvest. Dawn rayed on the vines, baskets brimming with Cabernet grapes, air sweet fermented. But storm clouds gathered literal, thunder rumbling as we crushed the fruit by foot, laughter turning to yelps in the vat's chill. Lightning cracked, and Rose slipped, ankle twisting in the muck, pain flashing her face. I carried her to the truck, heart in throat, driving through sheets of rain to the ER. Waiting room limbo, fluorescent hum, her hand limp in mine, monitors beeping reassurances. Fracture, clean, 6 weeks boot, no surfing. But in that sterile hush, fear stripped us bare. "Don't leave me to this alone," she joked, wincing. I kissed her knuckles. "Never. We're vintage now, stronger pressed. Recovery wove us tighter." I played nurse, crutches and rom-com marathons, her propped on pillows sketching vineyard labels. Esteban emailed photos, his own small garden in Valencia, tomatoes ripening. "Learning to let grow," he wrote. Rose replied with ours, a bridge of pixels. Spring unfurled triumphant. The wine debuted at a farmer's market, bottles labeled Horizon Blend, our faces on the tagline, "From cliffs to coasts, loves that endure." Tastings drew crowds, toasts flowed. Ellie arrived with baby bump, mom in tow, sipping tentatively. "It's bold," mom allowed, and Rose hugged her, boot and all. Dad clapped my back later, "You built this. Both of you." Summer looped us full circle, a return to Spain, not for ghosts, but grace. We rented a cottage in Tarifa, waves lapping like old friends. No villa shadows, just us, bodyboarding at dusk, her ankle healed, whoops echoing. One evening, on that same cliff from my memory, the one we'd fled years back, she pulled me down, sunset painting us gold. "Marry me again," she whispered, ring glinting, hers, now with an anchor etching. Laughter bubbled. "Thought we did." "Renewal," she insisted. We did, impromptu, vows to the sea, seals with salt-kissed lips. Back home, life layered on, adoptions talked in hypotheticals, a nursery sketched in pastels. Esteban visited once, frail but smiling, toasting at our table with stories, not strings. He passed quietly that winter, vineyard to rose in trust, shared, not seized. In the end, our story isn't epic's blaze or tragedy's dirge, it's humanistic hum, the drama of days chosen. Riley and Rose, two women, scarred by sidewinds, anchored in each other's gaze. Sideways led here, to vines twisting towards sun, hands intertwined, horizons endless. And in quiet moments, as rain patters Seattle roofs, I trace her compass rose and know, love's the truest map, redrawn daily.